Okay, thanks. Martin Jenkins, Project Manager at the International Business Wales.
Yes, one of the advantages and privileges of being involved with an organisation such as NASSCOM is that I get to join an esteemed panel like this and have a captive audience to tell you about the benefits of Wales for a few minutes. And I'm not going to waste that opportunity. Just a few brief words about the organisation, because this is our 7th year as major sponsors of NASSCOM. The previous 6 we've been known as the Welsh Development Agency. Last year we merged with a sister organisation of ours called Wales Trade International, and together now we cater for all the trade and investment activities of Wales as an activity. We in Wales, we think of ourselves as a small and clever country, and perhaps an illustration of that is that 2001 we became very involved with NASSCOM and other Indian organisations and set up a permanent base here in India, because I think we saw then the potential that the growing Indian market, the growing Indian industry would provide for European investment at some point in the future. And at a time when the rest of Europe was looking at India as perhaps something of a risk, or as a threat, they were seeing people moving plant and people and operations over here to India. We tend to look at it far more as an opportunity. We saw that a growing Indian industry base would lead to longer term investment, and we set out to exploit that. And it's nice to be able to sit here now 6 years later and say, well, we were right. Sorry, thanks. We were right to a large extent. We've started to see significant Indian investment into Wales, not just in the software and technology sectors. We've had pharmaceutical success with Wockhardt, who now have their European base in Wales, their European headquarters in Wales. BUI of India, who trade in Wales as Universal Batteries and service the whole European market from there. I think there's more and more appreciation of the talents and benefits that the Indian software and the Indian technical industry can bring to Europe. But I think there's also a need, and a growing need within Europe, a recognition that they need to be close to the customer base that they have. You see instances of European-Indian collaboration. Logica CMG is a very good example, where they've integrated their Welsh or their operations in Wales and their operations in India to provide a complete customer service there. And we've proved, I think, that we can be a good home to Indian companies, sorry. And whether that presence in Europe, in the UK, in Wales, is achieved by growth or acquisition, build or buy, as the title of this session is obviously going to vary from operation to operation. And I think it's just the message we leave you with is that we're in a position to help you make that decision and investigate Wales, the UK and Europe as a location for Indian organisations.
Thank you. Let me hand over now to Bernard Bourgeois, Chairman and Managing Director of Atos Origin, who's, if my numbers are not wrong, is bigger than Infosys, Wipro and TCS combined.
Well, thank you. Good morning, everyone. First of all, I would like to say that Europe cannot be described as one region. It's a set of countries, each of the countries being very different. So if you want to understand Europe, you have got to learn country by country, and that's really the only way. I would like to say that today in Europe, and I'm not only talking about UK, which is part of Europe, as a matter of fact, I would like to say that there is a wide recognition in Europe that India is very important, and there is no concern about risk in India. I think now most companies recognize that there is good technology, that India is a country producing probably the greatest number of qualified IT engineers every year. So there is absolutely no concern whatsoever. In Europe, I think awareness about outsourcing and offshoring to India, but also to other countries, is building up, but the situation is different country by country. The UK is obviously by a long way the country which is more advanced. I would say after the UK, probably Netherlands, with their large global companies, are also very much advanced. And after Netherlands, I would put Germany and France, where awareness is building up. Probably at the end, countries like Spain and Italy, because those two countries believe that they have got their own future because they provide low cost compared to the other European countries. Another important factor is to learn how to work between India and Europe. For a lot of European companies, it's not that straightforward to move work to India. A lot of them, they've got to do what I call go into an industrialization process to be extremely effective before they go to do offshore in India. So there is some work to be done. There is some lesson to be learned. What's important as well when you work with clients, whether they are in Europe or in India, it doesn't matter. You have to build up a relationship of trust. And building up a relationship of trust with clients, and particularly with large companies, take time. Another phenomenon which is going to help, in my view, relationship between India and Europe is the fact that we are seeing more and more large Indian international companies buying businesses outside India. And there are some famous examples in the country where I come from, in France. So those Indian companies will need more and more to work with international IT providers. So I see a lot of good things, good signals for the business to develop between India and Europe, but both parties have got to learn to know each other better.
Thank you. Just to give you a quick background, about 22 to 25% of outsourcing revenue came from Europe, as per NASSCOM figures. Only a fraction of that, I think a couple of percentage points or percent came from continental Europe, and that's really what we're trying to address here. And Wipro seems to have had a slightly different experience, and I'd ask Sudeep Nandi, Chief Strategy Officer, to elaborate.
Thank you. I think I'll elaborate my opinion and my belief based on my personal experience. And before I took over this job as the Chief Strategy Officer at Wipro, I was based in Europe for almost 5 years. I was heading the European operations, where I inherited a business which was about $40 million in size. In 2004, middle when I left, it was $250 million. It was good success, and I learned a lot about what my colleagues here said about Europe is not Europe. You've got to learn each country, country by country. But one of the most momentous learnings I had is just after I moved into Europe, the tech wreck and the telecom doom happened all over the world. And we have big customers in the telecom sector. And in no time, in a matter of 2 or 3 quarters, the revenues from companies like Nortel and Cisco and Lucent just came down from 20 million, 30 million per year to 0. We also had 3 customers in Europe. We had Alcatel, we had Ericsson, we had Nokia. The worst was through the tech wreck, the revenues from those companies remained flat. Some of them decreased the growth rate. What does that tell me? That tells me, and I learned, that Europe is all about relationship. It takes a lot of time to build the relationship, but if you build them and invest in them, they do not go away. So Europe is not, the relationships in Europe, the customers in Europe are not tactical at all. It is all strategic. And you've got to have that mindset for us.